Chapter 12. And it came to pass, when the kingdom of Rehoboam was established, and he was strong, that he forsook the law of the Lord, and all Israel with him. And it came to pass in the 5th year of King Rehoboam, that Shishak king of Egypt came up against Jerusalem, because they had dealt treacherously with the Lord, with 1,200 chariots and 70,000 horsemen. And the people were without number that came with him out of Egypt, the Lubi, the Sukki, and the Ethiopians. And he took the fortified cities which pertained to Judah, and came unto Jerusalem. Now Shemaiah the prophet came to Rehoboam, and to the princes of Judah that were gathered together in Jerusalem because of Shishak, and said unto them, Thus saith the Lord, You have forsaken me, therefore have I also left you in the hand of Shishak. Then the princes of Israel and the king humbled themselves, and they said, The Lord is righteous. And when the Lord saw that they humbled themselves, the word of the Lord came to Shemaiah, saying, They have humbled themselves, I will not destroy them, but I will grant them some deliverance. My wrath shall not be poured out upon Jerusalem by the hand of Shishak. Nevertheless they shall be his servants, that they may know my service, and the service of the kingdoms of the countries. So Shishak the king of Egypt came up against Jerusalem, and took away the treasures of the house of the Lord, and the treasures of the king's house. He took all away. He took away also the shields of gold which Solomon had made. And King Rehoboam made in their stead shields of brass, and committed them to the hands of the captains of the guard, that kept the door of the king's house. And it was so, that as often as the king entered into the house of the Lord, the guard came and bore them, and brought them back into their chamber. And when he humbled himself, the anger of the Lord turned from him, that he would not destroy him altogether. And moreover in Judah there were good things found. So King Rehoboam strengthened himself in Jerusalem, and reigned. For Rehoboam was 41 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city which the Lord had chosen out of all the tribes of Israel to put his name there. And his mother's name was Naamah the Ammonitess. And he did that which was evil, because he set not his heart to seek the Lord. Now the acts of Rehoboam, first and last, are they not written in the histories of Shemaiah the prophet, and Edu the seer, after the manner of genealogies? And there were wars between Rehoboam and Jeroboam continually. And Rehoboam slept with his fathers, and was buried in the city of David. And Abiah his son reigned in his stead. All right, let's go back up to verse 1. And we will be continuing and finishing up with Rehoboam. He would be this king after Solomon, where the kingdom would be torn into pieces. We'll find they strayed from God. They had went against God. And in the last chapter, Shemaiah told him that it was of God. God was done this. And they had went and get a big army together to go destroy the other nations of Israel, but God had stopped them, and instead they began to build these cities, these cities of fortification, and we'll find that when he became established, that's when this period of time, it'll be about we'll find it will be the 5th year of his reign, after his period of establishment, of becoming established in the nations, or in the nations. We'll pick it up here in verse 1. It came to pass, when the kingdom of Rehoboam was established, and he was strong, that he forsook the law of the Lord, and all Israel with him. And this period of time after his kingdom, and a kingdom is a dominion, or an area, or that which a king rules over. This king even sometimes referred to as a molech, or a ruler. Rehoboam is this wide place of the nations, or that increased of the people. And he forsook the law. We'll find after his kingdom was established, he forsakes the law of God. He forsakes the law he was required by Moses to make a copy of the law. Actually, God said they will make a copy of it and keep it right there beside him and stay to the law, the king will. And we'll find out they forsook the law, all Israel with him, too. And it came to pass in the 5th year of King Rehoboam that Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem because they had dealt treacherously with the Lord. And it comes to pass in the 5th year, and this would be when Shishak would come up. Of course, it probably prior to that when he would go astray from God. This 5th year, 5 is always grace, and a 5th is a portion. Even that portion of grace, a year is a greater cycle of days, or a larger understanding. So it's a portion of a greater understanding even of this king, Rehoboam, that wide place of the people, or that which would increase the people. The Shishak means this greed of fine linen. It's the greediness of fine linen, and that is all the goodliness, those things that are woven tightly of beautiful color, and we're going to find out. It's that position, even of nobility. Shishak, it would be the king of Egypt, or the king of Egypt, the king of that land of enclosures. The Molech, he would be the Pharaoh, or from the great house. And he come up against Jerusalem. Jerusalem was the place of peaceful teachings. It's the teachings of peace. That's what Jerusalem means. Because they have dealt treacherously with the Lord. And that's why they had turned from the law of God. They had turned from God's law. And we're going to see God's punishing. We can always witness that God punishes when they err from the law. 3, with 1,200 chariots and 70,000 horsemen, and the people were without number that come with him out of Egypt. The Lubi, the Sukii, and the Ethiopians, these 1,200 chariots. 12, see, that's 10 and 2. The law is witnessed in judgment. Hundreds always judgment. These chariots, these war machines that are the judgments of God, which he sends. We learned that even in Ezekiel. It's the singular chariot. It's that chariot of God. It's that judgment of God coming down. And these 70,000 horsemen, even these 70,000 horsemen, these 3, that's complete. And score is 20. A score is 20, and a 20 is 2 tens. We can witness the law, even in fulfillment. That's 1,000 fulfillment, to fulfill the law, to even the judgment by it. The horsemen are those that sit upon strengths, even these ones that sit upon these strengths that God uses for judgment. And the people were without number that came with him out of Egypt. And Shishak, this greed of fine linen, and we'll find out that's what was tearing the kingdom down, was this greed for all these great, wealthy, beautiful, wonderful things, the taxation they had put upon the people to get all this. And these armies that come with Shishak out of Egypt, that land of enclosures, that place where God had brought them forth from, that land of pits and snares and graves and lubim. The lubim is a plural for the lubi, and that the luv. Those are the empty-hearted, those ones that it's like a vessel that's empty of understanding. It's like a vessel that's empty of anything to drink from. It's like you had a canteen of water and it's bone dry, and it has reference to being very thirsty. You're wanting something to drink and your canteen's dry. Sukkim, the Sukkim are those that dwell in booths. That's Sukkot, and or is the booths, and the Suk, it would be a booth, and the Suki are those of the booths. The Sukkim is the plural of that, and that's those that have this covering, even those that take the refuge. And the Ethiopians, this Ethiopians is not what it says. It's Cushi, And those are the sons of Cushi, and they would be those that dwell in the darkness, those of darkness. 4. And he took the fortified cities which pertained to Judah, and came unto Jerusalem. And he took these fortified cities, these cities that Rehoboam had built up, which pertained to Judah, these ones that belonged to Judah, those are praisings. And he came to Jerusalem, right up to Jerusalem, right up to these cities of peaceful teachings. 5. Now Shemaiah the prophet came to Rehoboam, and to the princes of Judah, that were gathered together to Jerusalem because of Shishak, and said unto them, Thus saith the Lord, You have forsaken me, therefore have I also left you in the hand of Shishak. Now Shemaiah is this one who listens to God. He is that one who listened to God, and the prophet. And the prophet is this one, a speaker, he's a spokesman. He come to Rehoboam, the one, the increased of the nations, to the princes of Judah, these rulers over all the praisings, and that were gathered together in Jerusalem, that place of peaceful teachings, because of Shishak, and that greed of the fine linen, that we'll find out associated with nobility. Thus saith the Lord, You have forsaken me, therefore have I also left you in the hand of Shishak. You have forsaken the Lord your God in the law, in not keeping the law. Therefore he has left you in the works of this greed of fine linen. 6. Then the princes of Israel and the king humbled themselves, and they said, The Lord is righteous. And all the princes and all the king, they all humbled themselves, these rulers of Israel, those that contend with the mighty one. See, and they say, The Lord is righteous, because God alone is righteous, God alone is just. The law is the justice and the judgment thereof. 7. And when the Lord saw that they humbled themselves, the word of the Lord came to Shemaiah, saying, They have humbled themselves. I will not destroy them, but I will grant them some deliverance. And my wrath shall not be poured out upon Jerusalem by the hand of Shishak. And when God saw they humbled themselves, when they had seen their error and humbled themselves, turned from their sin, going to turn, the word of the Lord came to Shemaiah, this one who listens to God, saying, They have humbled themselves. I will not destroy them, but I will grant them some deliverance. See, some deliverance. God's still going to pouring out a little judgment here. And my wrath shall not be poured out upon Jerusalem by the hand of Shishak. And he's not going to give totally over Jerusalem, this place of peaceful teachings, by these works of Shishak, this greed of fine linen. 8. Nevertheless, they shall be his servants, that they may know my service, and the service of the kingdoms of the countries. Nevertheless, God says, they shall be his servants. They shall serve him, and that means they will have to make themselves servitude unto him, that they may know my service, the Lord says, that they may know what I can do. See, what God can cause. And the service of the kingdoms of the country, and how he causes these other countries to serve. They're not gods. See, that's what he does. They serve their not gods, and these they raise up. 9. So Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem, and took away the treasures of the house of the Lord, and the treasures of the king's house. He took all away. He took away also the shields of gold which Solomon had made. So Shishak, the king of Egypt, this king of Egypt, the one from the great house there, Pharaoh, he's Shishak, this greed of fine linen, this one of all nobility. He's come out of the land of Egypt, out of that land of enclosures, graves, pits, snares. He's come up against Jerusalem, that place of peaceful teachings, and he took away all the treasures of the house of the Lord, all these things that were stored up there, and the treasuries, all the gold, the silver, all the treasures of the king's house as well. And we'll see here, this is going to be the first robbing, carrying away that which belongs to God, that which he even give the kings to use, and he took it all away. He takes away the shields of gold which Solomon made. These shields now, those that protect, these agreements, these coverings of gold, or covenants of gold, these that belongs to God, which Solomon had made, that peace that God give. 10. And King Rehoboam made in their stead shields of brass, and committed them to hands of the captains of the guard that kept the door of the king's house. And King Rehoboam made in their stead these shields of brass. These shields of brass, well, they kind of look like gold, but they're not really gold. These covenants, these protectors of brass, it's cold darkness. It's iron mingled in, and they've committed them to the hands of the captains of the guards. These works of these captains, these rulers over the guard that kept the door of the king's house, that watches over this place where the king goes in and out. 11. And it was so that as often as the king entered into the house of the Lord, the guard came and bore them and brought them back into the guard chamber. And it was so that as often as the king entered into the house of God, the house of the Lord, that the guards came and they bore them before him and brought them back and put them back in the guard chamber when he left. 12. And when he humbled himself, these are those covenants of brass. 12. And when he humbled himself, the anger of the Lord turned from him, that he would not destroy him altogether. And moreover, in Judah there was good things found. And as long as the king humbled himself, see, the anger of the Lord turned from him, that he would not destroy him altogether. And also there was these good things were found in Judah, because there were those that had not went astray. There were those that still served God. 13. So King Rehoboam strengthened himself in Jerusalem, and he reigned. For Rehoboam was 41 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city which the Lord had chosen out of the tribes of Israel, to put his name there. And his mother's name was Naamah, the Ammonitess. And King Rehoboam strengthens himself in Jerusalem. He makes himself strong there. He tries to walk before the Lord there in these peaceful teachings, in this place of peaceful teachings. And he reigns. And he stays there, we'll find, until the day he dies. And he reigned. For Rehoboam, that one who increased the nation, was 41 years old, or that one who represented the increase of the nations, that was 41 years old when he began to reign. 41 years old, because it's always the work of God, these 4 tenths that in the law, see, and 1 year old. And this one was the beginning, even these years, all these greater understandings of old, that's the law, when he began to reign. And he reigned for 17 years in Jerusalem. And we'll find out he wasn't such a young man when he began to reign. Maybe, I think I might have stated that in an earlier chapter. But Rehoboam was 41, and he reigns for 17 years, so that would put him at about 58. And 17 years would be how long he would reign. And these 7, or this 10 and 7, that would be 17. And that's the law and perfection in these greater understandings in Jerusalem, because we'll always find God's work in there. And that's in those city of peaceful teachings, where the Lord chose out of all the tribes of Israel to put his name. And his mother's name was Naamah, the Ammonitess. And his mother's name, that would be the one he was born from, even that understanding of his father. Naamah, that beautiful pleasantness, that beautiful, wonderful pleasantness, even this that we have heard of. She was of the Ammonites, and the Ammonites are those of the nations, those of the peoples, and this would be in the feminine sense, or in the beauty of the nations. 14. And he did that which was evil, because he set not his heart to seek the Lord. See, and that's all you got to do, to do that which is right. Set your heart to seek the Lord. Set your heart to seek the Lord. 15. Now the acts of Rehoboam, first and last, are they not written in the histories of Shemaiah the prophet, and of Iddo the seer, after the manner of genealogies? And there were wars between Rehoboam and Jeroboam continually. And all the acts of Rehoboam, this one who would increase or represent the increase of the nations, first and last, from the beginning to the end, they are written there in the histories, those writings of the past which we got for a witness, of Shemaiah, the ones who listened to God, the prophet, those are the speakers, and Iddo, the seer, after the manner of genealogies. And Iddo is this my witness. He's not really my witness, it's this one who come before me. He would be the seer, this one having the vision. And it's written after the manner of genealogy by their names. And there were wars between Rehoboam and Jeroboam. And there were wars, there were strifes, there were contentions between this one who would increase the nations or represent that, and Jeroboam, this one who would cause the nations to strive even. 16. Now Rehoboam slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David, and Abiah, his son, reigned in his stead. And Rehoboam sleeps with his fathers, and that's the same as to die or to pass on, to cease to exist upon the earth. He was buried in the city of David. And David's that chosen one. I call him the chosen one. It means the beloved, the loved, or uncle. And Abiah, his son, reigns in his stead. And Abiah, it's my father's God, was his understanding, and he reigns in his stead. And we're going to move on. See, we're going to go on to chapter 13 and see what happens. Turn and return.